I've been looking forward to this for quite some time, and it finally happened. Keir Starmer flew to Washington DC to meet with Donald Trump, and he even took his pet David Lammy along with him, which I thought was rather a nice touch. Now we're going to get into it. I'm going to look at some of the highlights, some of the things that were said, the very real ramifications for Britain and Britain's future and the relationship with the United States. And I'm also going to compare and contrast the rhetoric at the meeting with the rhetoric from even just days, weeks and months past. It's very, very different, so much so that it's jarring. Now, where better to start than with Keir Starmer's arrival at the White House? Donald Trump did greet him at the door, which is a nice touch and is more of a courtesy than Emmanuel Macron got just a few days ago. But just look at Keir Starmer's body language. It's so awkward, it's so strange, it just makes me uncomfortable watching it. And now you've got to watch it too.
Ready, close. Ready, shut.
Yes, we can. We can. We will. Thank you.
Now, when I say what I'm about to say, I need you to understand that I am not casting any negative expression about anyone with autism. Look, Elon Musk has autism, and I'm a big fan. I frequently get told that I have autism, usually just by women that I'm trying to flirt with, but that's not the point. But Keir Starmer's behaviour here is very clearly autistic, and it makes me wonder if that actually might explain a lot of his other behaviour. Look, if you don't believe me, listen closely. He actually says "very good to see you again" 3 times to Donald Trump in the space of 15 seconds. It's just a little bit uncomfortable. Anyway, the two teams find themselves just a few moments later in the White House being asked questions by the press. And JD Vance doesn't hold back. He reiterates the claims that he made in Germany a couple of weeks ago about free speech being suppressed in the UK. He does it right to Keir Starmer's face. But in a weird and rare moment of pep, Keir Starmer fights back.
Great. Yeah, look, I said what I said, which is that we do have, of course, a special relationship with our friends in the UK and also with some of our European allies. But we also know that there have been infringements on free speech that actually affect not just the British. Of course, what the British do in their own country is up to them, but also affect American technology companies and by extension American citizens. So that is something that we'll talk about today at lunch.
We've had free speech for a very, very long time in the United Kingdom, and it will last for a very, very long time.
Now, Keir Starmer's claim that we have free speech here in the UK is frankly laughable. It's just not true. If you don't believe me, go and watch my last video, because in there is the story of a woman who was visited by 2 detectives just a week ago because she said on Facebook that her local Labour councillors should resign. They've actually been suspended by the Labour Party, so even the Labour Party agrees with it, right? For Keir Starmer, what he means by free speech is free, politically correct speech. But in America, it really does mean something different. It actually means free speech. You can say whatever the hell you want. Look, I've watched crazy videos online, right? And I don't endorse people doing these kinds of things, but I've watched crazy videos online of people going up to police officers and saying, like, truly racist things or giving them the middle finger or whatever, and the police officer will do nothing because they can do nothing. Their right to say those things is actually protected by free speech. They are like free speech maximalists. Now look, I don't endorse people going up to police officers and saying racist things, of course I don't, but having that free speech protected in that way, truly protected, is a really valuable thing. So Keir Starmer talking about free speech in Britain versus JD Vance talking about free speech in America, they're talking past each other. They're not talking about the same thing. Free speech doesn't mean the same thing to them at all. The next part of this saga is when a reporter asks Donald Trump what he has in common with Keir Starmer. And I'm pretty sure the reporter was trying to create a little moment of tension between them because the two of them are on completely opposite ends of the political spectrum. Look at this little guy. But it didn't work because the Donald didn't bite. He just gave a sort of ringing endorsement of Keir Starmer. You're just going to have to take a listen to it yourself whilst I make friends with this little spider here.
What's your common ground with Keir Starmer? Because you're both from different political backgrounds.
It's true. I think I can say this because we've known each other now really for a little while. This is not our first meeting, as you know. He loves his country, and so do I. That's our common theme. He loves his country, and I love our country. And we also have 2 countries that have gotten along for the longest period of time. Yeah. Number 1 ally on each side. And we have good. France and Australia, we have a lot of good ones. But we've had a long-time relationship, a long time, hundreds of years. And we like each other, frankly, and we like each other's country, and we love our country. And I think that's our common thread.
The reason I bring this up and the reason it's so fascinating is because when Boris Johnson received an endorsement from Donald Trump, Keir Starmer said that that endorsement alone was proof that Boris Johnson does not belong in politics. And yet here's Keir Starmer getting an endorsement from Donald Trump. I just find that really odd. Does that mean that Keir Starmer now isn't suitable for life in politics? I think the answer to that is yes, but for very different reasons. In fact, throughout this whole visit, Donald Trump is extremely polite, kind and courteous to Keir Starmer. And it's strange, it's not what people expected because of some of the things that Keir Starmer has said about Trump in the past.
Don't underestimate the danger to the world if Trump is re-elected this time around. I'm anti-Trump.
Donald Trump holds grudges. We know that, right? So you must be wondering how exactly has Keir Starmer managed to soften him up like this? And to be honest, he did something quite clever. Even I will admit it. He brought a gift, a big gift, and it was the kind of gift that only the British can give.
And it is my pleasure to bring from His Majesty the King a letter. He sends his best wishes and his regards, of course, but he also asked me to bear this letter and bring it to you. So can I present the letter from the King to you?
Thank you very much. Perhaps you'd like to say what that very important paragraph...
Yes, so this is a letter from His Majesty the King. It's an invitation for a second state visit. This is really special. This has never happened before. This is unprecedented. And I think that just symbolises the strength of the relationship between us. So this is a very special letter. I think the last state visit was a tremendous success.
It was.
His Majesty the King wants to make this even better than that. So this is truly historic, an unprecedented second state visit, and he wants to talk that through with you.
And that says at Windsor. That's really something.
Yes. What I haven't got yet is your answer. I do need to.
The answer is yes. On behalf of our wonderful First Lady, Melania, and myself, the answer is yes, and we look forward to being there and honoring the King and honoring really your country. Your country is a fantastic country, and it'll be our honor to be there. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. President. I shall happily take that back to His Majesty.
It's beautiful.
Thank you.
So we just had over my shoulder a pheasant running away. Annie, of course, didn't even chase because she doesn't even know what to do with herself. And then over my left shoulder, you've got a nice British swamp, which I'm trying desperately not to fall into. Getting a bit distracted. Now look, it's not often you hear me say something positive about Keir Starmer. This might actually be the first time, and it's probably going to be the last time. But he did the right thing here. He did something clever. He played the man. He played to Donald Trump's ego. We know that Trump likes to be unique, likes to be the best at things, which actually I think is a pretty good characteristic to have in your leader. But anyway, he played that, and he played it well. As he informed Trump, this is the first time a president has ever been offered a second state visit to the UK, and that this one was going to be even bigger, even better to celebrate you, Donald Trump. That was clever, and I think that is genuinely what has softened Donald Trump to Keir Starmer. Whether it was Starmer's idea or not, I don't know. But look, we'll give credit where it's due. And also, we get this exceptional, exquisite moment where David Lammy is sat in the same room as Donald Trump as Keir Starmer invites him back to the UK. And why is this exquisite? Well, because prior to Donald Trump's first state visit, David Lammy said that he was going to protest on the streets against Donald Trump's visit. Can you believe that? Now, Lammy's reduced to nothing, sat in a chair, not even on camera most of the time, whilst Keir Starmer hands a second invite to Trump. I love it. Now, before we come on to the more serious stuff, there is actually a really weird moment that just reminds you how fake Keir Starmer is being throughout this whole meeting. Because he thanks Donald Trump for putting the bust of Churchill back in its rightful place in the Oval Office.
It's good to know that the United Kingdom has a true friend in the Oval Office. And it was so good to see the bust of Winston Churchill back in its rightful place just a moment ago.
So what exactly is this all about? Well, there's a bust of Winston Churchill that typically lives in the Oval Office of the White House, and Joe Biden removed it and Donald Trump put it back, which is yet another sign of how much Donald Trump really does respect and love Britain. But Keir Starmer's platitudes about thanking him and saying it was good to see it back in its rightful place, they hold no water. Because when Keir Starmer won the general election, he took down the portraits of Winston Churchill out of Parliament. I think he even replaced one of them with a portrait of Yvette Cooper, which is like hilarious and laughable. How can you replace Winston Churchill with Yvette Cooper? Anyway, it just goes to show that what Keir is doing is trying to tap into Donald Trump's love of Britain and British history and Winston Churchill just for political gain. But it's fake. He doesn't believe it. If he did, he wouldn't have taken down our own portraits of Winston Churchill in Parliament. Okay, so on to the more serious stuff. What exactly was achieved in the meeting? Look, we know that Donald Trump is planning to put 25% tariffs on goods being imported from the EU to the US. But has Keir Starmer managed to convince Donald Trump not to do the same with the UK?
Mr. President, did our Prime Minister persuade you not to put tariffs on the UK? And if I may, Prime Minister, do you think that Vladimir Putin is a man who will keep his word? Thanks.
He tried. He was working hard, I'll tell you that. He earned whatever the hell they pay him over there. But he tried. I think there's a very good chance that in the case of these two great friendly countries, I think we could very well end up with a real trade deal where the tariffs wouldn't be necessary. We'll see. But he earned whatever they pay him. He earned today. He was working hard at lunch. And I'm very receptive to it. I think in all fairness, in all seriousness, I think we have a very good chance at arriving at a very good deal. JD and Scott and Howard, all the people are working on it, and I think we have a good chance at arriving at a deal that could be terrific. Really terrific for both countries, okay?
Yes, you heard that correctly. Not only is there the possibility of no tariffs, there's even the prospect of a UK-US trade deal, something the Tories could never get off the ground, and Joe Biden wasn't even willing to entertain discussions about it. It just shows again that even though I'm fairly confident Donald Trump does not like Keir Starmer, he does like Britain and the British people enough to potentially entertain a trade deal. And I think this comes down to the fact that his grandmother was Scottish. Donald Trump himself is a quarter Scottish. He owns multiple golf courses in Scotland. He loves Scotland. He loves Britain. And it just makes me think, imagine if we had like a strong right-wing government, how amazing this could be for Britain. But look, what we have got are Starmer and Lammy. And if they can pull off somehow a trade deal, a UK-US trade deal that is to the benefit of Britain, I'm not going to complain about it, okay? I still think they're both tyrants, especially here back in Britain, but ultimately, if they can manage to do something that benefits the British people, I won't complain about it. I won't suddenly start liking them. I'm not going to vote Labour, but I won't complain about it. After this, Donald Trump was asked a very interesting question about Ukraine. He was asked that if British troops were sent to Ukraine to be peacekeepers and somehow they were attacked by the Russians, would Donald Trump and America come to the aid of the British? And the answer might surprise you.
If the British people are in Ukraine and they get attacked, you know, I've always found about the British, they don't need much help. They can take care of themselves very well. You know what? No, it sounds like it's evasive, but it's not evasive. You know, the British have been incredible soldiers, incredible military, and they can take care of themselves. But if they need help, I'll always be with the British, okay? I'll always be with them. But they don't need help. You look at their career, you have done very well over the years, haven't you?
We have. I'm very proud of our country. And but we've also always been there backing each other up between our two countries. That is why this is the greatest alliance for prosperity and security I think the world has ever seen. Whenever necessary, we've absolutely backed each other up, and that's at the core.
Could you take on Russia by yourselves?
Well...
All right.
Again, Donald Trump lays his praise on Britain and says, or kind of hints that ultimately, yes, we probably would, but then sort of cheekily jokes that maybe the British could take on Russia by themselves. No, we can't. If it was a straight fight between Russia and Britain alone, we would get absolutely decimated. Not because our military isn't good, it is, I was a part of it, it's just small, really small. We don't have much ammunition, we don't have many guns, we don't have much of anything if I'm completely honest. So no, we couldn't take Russia alone. Fortunately, Russia is no real threat to Britain. We're a nuclear-armed country, and there's a whole lot of countries between Russia and Britain, okay? You're going to have quite a lot of notice before the Ruskies get to the channel. And now comes the bad news, the Chagos Islands. Now, I haven't even made a video about the Chagos Islands because I was so confident that I understood what Donald Trump's stance would be on this issue. But it looks like I've got this completely wrong, because when a reporter asked Donald Trump about the Chagos Islands and whether he would go along with the deal, he seemed to suggest that he probably would. And I can't fathom this, right? For those who don't know and who aren't following this story, the Chagos Islands are some islands. They're a British overseas territory. We own them. Some international court said maybe you should think about giving them to Mauritius. And Keir Starmer's decided, yeah, we'll totally do that. And then Mauritius has said, well, actually, we need a bunch of money as well as the islands. And Keir Starmer has said, sure, how much? Turns out it's like 9 billion or something. Now, I haven't even focused on this story. I haven't even made a video about this story because I was so confident that I understood Donald Trump's position and that he would just veto this deal. He wouldn't let this go ahead because one of the most important US bases, Diego Garcia, is based on those islands. And of course, there's some kind of lease deal where we get to keep the base for 99 years, right? And that's what we're paying for ultimately. But this is so strange. The obvious solution is tell the international courts to go away in probably less polite terms than that. Keep the islands, keep the money. This is a bad deal, and Donald Trump is known for making deals. He sees himself as a deal maker, so I can't understand how he can look at this deal and think it's good. If anything, this just plays into the hands of China, who Mauritius are allied with, and it's probably the Chinese who are pressuring the UN to try and get the UK to give up this island because the Chinese want this base. That's a very convoluted way of explaining the Chagos situation, and now that Donald Trump seems to be suggesting that he'll go along with it, I think I will make a video about this topic. I was so confident that this was going to become a non-issue, like I said, that this would get wrapped up and Donald Trump would just say no way. But I'll play the clip. The audio is pretty bad in this clip. I don't know why, but you can hear it and you can hear what he says about Chagos. It's only short.
On Chagos, Mr. President, Keir Starmer has signed a deal to give away Chagos Islands to Mauritius. Will you approve that deal?
Well, we're going to have some discussions about that very soon, and I have a feeling it's going to work out very well. They're talking about a very long-term, powerful lease, a very strong lease, about 140 years, actually. That's a long time, and I think we'll be inclined to go along with your country.
So, yes, I'm quite disappointed by that, and I didn't really expect it. But overall, Keir Starmer's visit to see Donald Trump in Washington wasn't a disaster. There were definitely parts that were weird. Nothing really good came out of it. But it wasn't a disaster. And a lot of people on the right wing are probably going to try and pretend that it was. Some people on the left are going to try and say that this was amazing, the best thing ever. It also wasn't that. It was fairly lukewarm, but it's not quite what I expected. I did think it would go worse than this, if I'm completely honest. Look, I'm not singing Keir Starmer's praises or David Lammy's praises. Everything I've said about them in the past, I hold to be true. Keir Starmer rules the UK like a tyrant. There are English people sat in prison right now that absolutely should not be. I will not forget that. I'm not going to vote Labour. Do not worry. I'm not switching sides or anything like that. But, you know, I just observe the world as it is. And that is the observable series of events that I saw happening in Washington. It wasn't a total catastrophe. Let me know what you think. I'm really curious, actually. I'll try and reply to a few hundred comments, but I really am curious on this one, what you guys thought of everything you've just seen, and maybe you saw some extra clips that I didn't include, because there are some, but I don't want the video to be, you know, an hour. Nobody will watch it, right? Anyway, look at this. What a beautiful day. This is England, right? How amazing is this? This is the perfect English day. It's about 9 degrees, so it's not too hot. The dog is a little bit warm, but there was some nice cool water for her to jump into. She's happy. She gets a nice long walk. The soil is not sodden. It's not marshy. There's no wind. The temperature's perfect. The sun's out. Not too many clouds. It's just England. Look at this. This is England, and I love it. I absolutely love this goddamn country, and I love the countryside. Oof. You'll never catch me in a city, not for long. Anyway, rambling. Right, I will see you next time.